also want to thank everybody for coming here today. It is a pleasure to see you all. And to start the program off today, I want you to all take a second and think about a time that you may have encountered some injured wildlife. And when you encountered that wildlife, how did you feel? What did you do? And just some of those things like that. So if you don't mind just taking a minute or two to maybe think about that, and then you can feel free to share with the people at your table or the person next to you as well. Hi there.
Find anything?
It was so sad.
You were afraid of the president?
I called. Turned out to be small.
Yeah, that's definitely.
It already got 8.
Oh, you said
And then
you're
bring him to like the nature.
Yeah, right?
I
That's
did
okay.
think it was a young one that had really learned how to
Let's see you fly.
so I just was real weak. That's kind of
Spot, you know.
yeah. It was around the yard. It wouldn't fly.
Like, cause they're in.
I'm not sure it goes.
Down far enough, so then the rest of the year we like to go around the spot. So they're gone for like.
Fast, on his tail.
Don't require this.
All right, has everybody had a chance to think about it? Maybe talk a little bit about what happened? Would anybody like to share? Does anybody want to share? It's okay if not. Yeah, what happened?
Well, we've always just found like baby bunnies or baby birds in the backyard or like squirrels, and some of them are hurt, so then we have to bring them in.
Right, yeah.
The nature reserve or whatever.
Okay, yeah, right, baby bunnies, a lot of baby wildlife. I know personally, growing up, there's been some times where you find baby birds or maybe a baby rabbit and you're not sure if it's injured or what to do if it is injured, or where, even if you do get it, then where do you bring it? So these are all things that we are going to be talking about today. And I would like to, question?
We found a falcon kind of by the train in town.
Wow.
Steam train, those steam train ones.
Cool, and what'd you do? You just,
We called somebody.
yeah, right? Yeah, it's definitely important to know who to call. What about you back there?
One time, me and my dad and my family were on a walk and we saw a snake eating a toad.
There's nature for you.
Yeah, right, that definitely happens. So, for most of us, when we see like injured wildlife, I know like myself, maybe our immediate reaction is, to have compassion and to feel for that animal. And that's pretty normal, to have compassion for wildlife, because maybe in some ways they reflect, some of the same things we go through. Whether we get injured or hurt ourselves, we can relate a lot to wildlife that's injured. So today, for our program, we're going to be talking about if you care, should you leave it there? And although human intervention and proper wildlife rehab can save injured animals, it can also disrupt the natural circle of life. So it's really important to know when you should step in and intervene and when you shouldn't. So my name's Eric Janko Gunderson. I go to college here in Stevens Point at Stevens Point University. I'm majoring in EE&I, and I have a true passion for wildlife. So I'm very interested in wildlife rehabilitation and anything natural resources related.
My name is Brenna. I am also a senior practicum student here at the university, and I fell in love with learning about animals and decided that I wanted to save all of them, which sadly I can't do by myself. So instead of trying to go out and save all of them myself, taking that and teaching others about what they can do to help and passing on that passion that I have to others.
So, as I just said, it can be very hard to decide when to step in and intervene with wildlife, or when to let nature take its course, or in other words, let the circle of life happen, right? Like who said back there, who's seen a snake eating a toad? was that you? Right? Yeah, it can be hard to know when you should intervene and when you should just let wildlife be wildlife. So, whether injured by natural causes or human action, wildlife may not always need our help. And it is crucial to understand when to intervene and when it's best to let nature take its course. So, some examples of wildlife needing, not needing human assistance. Who here has seen a baby white-tailed deer fawn before? Wow, that's a lot of you. I've also seen a white-tailed deer baby fawn. Where did y'all see this deer?
In the field across the street from our house.
In the field? What was it doing?
They just lay down in there.
Just laying down, right? Chilling. And so that is really important because white-tailed deer, a lot of people like to think if they see a baby fawn that it's alone or abandoned or in trouble, but in nature that's actually very normal for baby deer fawns to be hiding because, question?
They don't smell.
Who-
The mom has a smell, but the fawns don't.
Right?
So
Yeah.
they let it go wild and attract for the predators to follow them.
Right, yeah, so I think you're right. Baby fawn, white-tailed deer definitely have a resistance to smell, and the mom actually can't be there all day, so when she's foraging for food or out doing her thing, she can't be in two places at once, so a lot of the time she'll just leave the baby there. And she doesn't like to go back and forth to it because that can also draw attention to predators. Then she's pretty much saying, hey, my baby deer is right over here. So if you see a baby white-tailed deer, you typically don't want to intervene because for the most part, it might not be in trouble. It might not be abandoned. It's probably just doing what it's supposed to do. Another example is fledgling birds. So I know a lot of us, when we were thinking about that scenario earlier, who here has seen a small baby bird hopping around on the ground before? Some of y'all? Yeah, so there's nestling birds, and those are the ones that are like naked in the nest. They have no feathers yet, and maybe they have a few spots. And fledgling birds are the ones that kind of have that like, not quite full feathers yet, but they're kind of fluffy looking. Oh, I got a picture. Right here. If nobody's seen a baby white-tailed deer before, here it is. They have these white spots to help them camouflage. You said you've seen them like laying in a yard or prairie field, right? They have these white spots that help them blend in with their environment. And then this is what a fledgling bird would look like. So I think this is a robin. So they kind of have feathers, but not quite. And that's another animal that a lot of people unnecessarily intervene with because they think that it might need help. Now, if you see a nestling baby bird on the ground that's naked, doesn't have any feathers, that's when you would typically want to try to step in and help. If you see a fledgling bird, something like this, hopping around on the ground, then it's usually good because they're just trying to learn how to fly. They may have just jumped out of the nest and they're attempting to fly. So again, and usually the mother's around, kind of like the deer. They can't be in two places at once. So the mom might not be there right away, but she'll come back and be able to help that baby.
And be yelling at you.
Yeah, right? Probably yelling at the bird too. So those were some examples of when maybe you shouldn't step in and help wildlife because sometimes we like to say that nature knows best. So those animals, those baby animals in those situations are usually equipped to survive on their own.
So if you come across an animal that maybe didn't fit in these categories and you think this animal might need some rescuing, maybe it looks like it has a broken limb or something along the lines of that, then you can first call a rehabber. So on your tables, you can grab one of those little business cards if you would like to. They have the numbers with the Wisconsin DNR that you can call for like a general bit of information. Or on the back side, we have 4 nearby rehabilitation centers, including Nature's Niche, which is where Schmiegler recommends everyone takes their animals if it's near the area. But if you're a little further away, or if they say that they don't want that, they can't take in that animal right now, then there's other options on those cards. But if you call one of these places and they say, yes, please bring in this animal, you describe the situation and they say, please bring it in, then the next step is to rescue the animal from wherever it may be. And this requires very careful handling, including wearing a mask, gloves, and using proper containment to ensure both human and animal safety throughout the process. So, what are some things, if you're told to bring this animal in mind, what are some things, bring this animal in, what are some things you think you should keep in mind while you're rescuing this animal?
To put it in something when it's in the car and not on the floor.
Yes, it should definitely be in something, not just on the floor of the car, yes.
If you're using an airtight container, put holes in it.
Put holes in airtight containers, yes, very good. Yeah,
They might try and hurt you
they might
because
try.
they're afraid.
Yes, if animals are afraid, they might try and fight back a little because they don't know that we're trying to help them in that moment. Yeah,
It might need to be warm.
it might need to be warm, yes. These are all very good points that are exactly what I'm going to cover today. So, good job, yeah.
If it's a deer, you should probably just leave it alone and call them and they'll probably come out to do it.
Yes, exactly. That the Wisconsin DNR number that's on there, if you call them, they can possibly, if they're able, between the hours of 10 a.m. and 7 p.m., you can call that number and they can connect you with someone that can come out and help you with that animal. So yes. So the main things to keep in mind are safety, both of you and the animal that you're working with. To limit the animal's stress, so obviously this is going to be a very stressful situation. Like stated, they don't know that you're helping them, so it's important to, if you have music playing, to turn off any music. Don't talk to the animal. It can be really tempting. They kind of look cute. You want to be like, oh my gosh, it's okay. That can add more stress to the animal instead of actually calming them down. And then making sure that you do not give them any food, water, or medication unless prompted to by someone who has training and certifications, because that can actually do more harm than good. And just overall making sure that you're not treating these animals like pets, because they're not, they're wild animals. Yeah.
You should probably put like a blanket over it.
Put a blanket over it. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to go into next. So, before I move on quick, it's very important to recognize that these animals might have some sort of diseases or things that go on with them. So again, with these licensed rehabilitators, they can help guide with that on if there's anything currently going on, but that can provide context if you need further protection with this process, or if you should just let nature continue and let the circle of life continue, sadly, for that animal, but for the betterment of maybe the habitat or the other populations or yourself. So, it's very important to, with these diseases in mind, have a mask handy. You might still have one of these left over, or recently bought because you got sick again, but these are very helpful to keep in mind and to keep on you and to use in a situation. So you don't give the animal anything and the animal doesn't give you anything. And then also with being safe both for you and the animal, if they are scared, they might try and bite or scratch. Yes, you can use those too. Might be a little hard with that, but being able to use your fingers, but better than nothing. So a good pair of gloves, higher level than latex, but less than snow gloves because you want some dexterity in your hands. So these leather gloves are very good, maybe gardening gloves or any work gloves that you may have. These are all very good things to use. And then also eye protection, specifically in animals that are flying because they might fly. And so protecting your eyes is very beneficial in that case. So we have my fancy demonstration box here, which you all will be having a chance at a table to make one today. So the key things that you need is a cardboard box, which you will poke holes into, so ventilation for the animal. And then, we have an animal in here right now. That's a blanket inside. Nope, not like one, sorry. There's an animal in here right now. A blanket inside to keep them a little warmer, and then, like Dave said, did you say that they need to be warm, right? You can actually fill a Ziploc bag with warm water, not hot water, because you don't want to burn the animal, but warm water that you can place in the box and then put the blanket over them. And then they can either, if they're able to move, they can go onto that if they feel like it, or stay away from it if not, so that way they don't get too warm. And then you'll need something to cover the box, and then while you're capturing the animal, and then a towel to help transport. So, with certain animals, it's a little bit different, protocol on how you do it. Obviously, like if you're getting a squirrel versus a bat, that might look a little different. So with flying animals, the biggest things to remember is to wait until the animal has landed. You don't want to be trying to catch it out of the air. That can cause more harm than good. So wait until it's landed, and then place the box over it. And then, kind of like if you're taking like a bug out of your house or like a spider, that you'll put the box over it and then slide the piece of cardboard underneath it very carefully, very gently to get the animal safely in here. And then you can slowly rotate the box to keep them safe and contained. And then for mammals, you're going to use more of a scooping method. So taking our box, you'll scoop underneath the animal and then use your cardboard piece to kind of help them in, and then again rotate very slowly, very carefully to get them contained in that box. So also with mammals or animals that would like to chew and get their way out, it's helpful to place that cardboard box then into like a plastic bin with still ventilation in it. So either poke holes in that if you're comfortable with that, or leave like the lid like crooked, that way they still get ventilation, but that way if they happen to chew out of their box, they are still contained.
Like a squirrel would love to chew out
A
the box.
squirrel would love to chew out of the box, but something to also note is that if it's an adult animal and they're letting you get this close to them and help them, then they're probably injured, because an adult animal will have the reflexes and the awareness to run away from humans. But for younger animals, it's important to reference what Eric has talked about on if they are actually in need of help, because they don't have those instincts on if they should be running away from you or not. But yeah, so we're gonna help pass out our boxes for you guys to get a chance to do this. A little note while Sydney, our helper, is passing those out. Some of these are Schmeekly stuffed animals and some of them are my stuffed animals. So both of those kept in mind that these stuffed animals, either mine or Schmeekly's, help people, and I need all these to return safely with me at home so you can keep me safe tonight. So if you can be kind to all the animals as if they're real animals, that'd be very appreciated.
I like the big
Okay, so you get to figure out who's the box.
I thought it was gonna be real. Oh, pencil. She's so cool.
Who is it? Nobody, you gotta get to the box.
Nobody in the box.
One out. No, the hedgehog.
Well, that'll be.
How much animal you want in your box?
You gotta get some.
Okay. There we go.
Blanket in there with you?
Alright, so now you can practice.
Alright.
Everyone can get a chance to put in the animal design.
You know
You
that
can
after
put it
this
in
you
the
can
bird,
head
or
off?
it's an mammal.
Alright, hedgehogs love the dark.
Okay, you can fold the edges of
They
your
like
box
to curl up
inward.
in a nice tight ball.
All the way.
They put all this fiber in
It's
it.
like a ball.
All the way down.
Yep.
He's not like a one
24 hours by law. Gotcha.
How long can you keep an animal before you release it? 24 hours.
Alright.
So no keeping the baby past the longest 24 hours.
I know you're not the softest thing ever.
And then you guys can practice your animal and practice putting it in the box. And scoop it, or you can do it.
I can imagine.
Their cousins is
You get in there? Okay.
Good job. Now, that one. Nice.
Oh yeah, we got
Is time watching? Okay. Then you got the gist of it.
Found it in Schneek's
Yeah, it's just Did you all get a chance to test out your skills? You put them on the sleep? Good job. You did a good job taking care of my animal.
Thousands.
You didn't do very good with their turtle, you put them.
And they were sitting on
Start our next
and I'm like, they don't need me.
Thank you.
Because we're sitting there, so this is really close to you. You just gotta, just sit there for about 5 seconds. You hear this chattering sound. I'm like, do you
I'm gonna grab your box back. Thank you so much, guys. Can I take this back?
And it was one of those last
What? Yeah.
basically what was happening. And the baby's falling out of the nest in the high storm. You know, baby's running around.
They were already gonna go to the so now they will definitely go to the
So
Let's
then
do
you
like
have
take
to
it home
make,
to
so you
hours.
gotta make a decision. Like, maybe not.
Look at them nuts.
Once you see the way, so you're gonna have to sit there and keep them.
There's one back there.
And whether or not you're gonna have to read, you know, it's better than me.
I was
Alright,
Just one parent, you know. But sometimes you
we're gonna restart back up.
you have to figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate you guys doing that activity, but we're gonna start our next little point, which is once you have gotten the animal safely in the box, you have brought it to a rehabilitator. Just kind of a touch point, since we are not licensed rehabilitators. We're just gonna kind of touch over what might happen when the animal is there. Again, we are not professionals, but I have experience volunteering in wildlife rehabilitation, and we've done research on this so we can show this information out to you guys. But
And just before we start, I was supposed to mention this earlier. Schmeekly does not
Yes.
accept wildlife or injured animals here at the Nature Center, which is why we provided y'all with these cards so that if or when you do see injured wildlife at Schmeekly, you know who to contact and who to call and where to bring them. Because not all nature centers accept injured wildlife. So Schmeekly, so I just wanted to preface that. So yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about what happens at rehabilitation centers. You wanna kick it off?
so this is where professionally trained wildlife rehabbers can provide the proper attention and care for these animals, and then aiming for release of these animals. So their goal is to nurture them back to health. while tracking their progress, tracking how much food they're getting, how their weight is being maintained, gained or lost, and just capturing this progress as they go so they can work towards releasing them back into the wild. They also want to make sure that their wild instincts are back. That's part of why if you are rescuing the animal, you don't want to talk to it because you don't want to have human imprints on those animals. So that way, when they are able to be released, they don't have the desire to rely on a human for their food. They can forage for those on their own, get that material that they need, and survive in the wild again. And if they are unable to be released, a sad point is they may be part of that circle of life that we've been talking about. They may have to be put down or something if they are unable to be released or kept in the facility, or they can be used as animal ambassador animals, where they come around to different groups such as you guys, or they're used for an educational tool and show the positives that can come out of some of these rescues that happen and give some light onto what these animals go through and what we can do as citizens to help them out.
Yeah.
So
nature centers are super important for conservation, especially when wildlife is brought in that is threatened or even endangered. So a lot of times if these types of animals are brought into a rehabilitation facility, it really helps push along that conservation aspect where we're trying to keep these wild animals part of the ecosystem. And as Brenna mentioned, so if an animal is unfortunately unable to be re-released back because maybe its injury is so severe that it won't ever be able to fly right again, or it might not be able to get its food, that's where it becomes a wildlife ambassador. And it's otherwise we wouldn't be able to see those animals up close and personal. So it's really important and cool to have these wildlife ambassadors to be able to educate the public and even ourselves and learn more about these incredible animals.
going off of that, some more things that these rehab centers get to do is they can collect some important data that scientists then can use for conservation. So if they're getting all of a sudden a bunch of possums that are coming in, then that can mean something about the ecosystems and what's going on outside these rehab centers. That can be very helpful for scientists to use and kind of experience what is going on outside. And they're often the first places to identify diseases that are going around. Like I mentioned before, they are having this first-hand experience seeing the animals that are either injured or under these diseases, and they can then use all of that information to notify whoever needs to be notified and get that information out to the public if needed. So, overall, wildlife rehabilitation centers are very important to both human and animal well-being and the general health of all creatures, since we are all connected together. So, we're going to pass on to our activity.
Yeah, so with that being said, we have a fun activity set up for y'all today. If you look on the walls, there will be 1, 2, 3 on that window there, and then 4 right here stations. So each station has a different wild animal on it, and a situation in which if you were to find this animal in this condition, what would you do? So when you go to each station, we'll just stay in the table groups, I suppose, or we can also bring them to you if you're unable to get to them. Just go up, read the situation, discuss with your table mates what you think you would do in that situation, and then once you discuss it for a minute or two, we'll call out and be like, okay, you can flip over the pictures now, and on the back side, there's all this wonderful information about what you would do in that actual situation. So feel free to get up, and I guess just move to the photo closest to the table.
You can take this group or you can go to this group so they don't have lower numbers.
Okay, this says
Move the
situation. We found a naked or nestled baby bird on the ground. What would you do? What would you do? What would you do when you found a baby bird? I had a stroke.
Back in the tree.
I can only see the first word or two, and then everything else is
There we go, thank you, Dimitri. Okay, so what's reading?
I can read it off if you'd like.
Okay, you just got free.
Okay, I'll read it for you guys. Okay, baby turtle. The situation. You found
What do y'all have over here?
Dude, the baby turtles.
Nestling bird.
Nestling bird.
Have you ever seen a nestling bird before? No? What do you think you would do if you seen this little guy? No, it's okay.
So they don't have feathers, they're probably not learning how to fly.
Yeah. So they probably got help us. If y'all want to pick over the picture,
You know, there's a lot there.
It says,
Tall grass.
a nestling bird will not survive unless its feathers stay good. Search for the bird's nest. Some birds nest trees or shrubs. You find the nest, you can safely reach it, place the baby bird back in its nest when it's warm. If the entire nest is falling down, try replacing the nest as close as possible to the original location. So it says wear gloves and then clean them afterwards.
oh yeah,
So you don't touch it with your
you
bare
can take the
hands.
photos right off the wall. Or right off the window. You can peel the tape off, pass it around.
Right. So it says find a baby bird with no feathers.
If you allow another minute at the station.
It says get some gloves. Get some gloves. And see if you put the baby back in its nest.
You don't need anything else. I get the babies out in fall time. Because guess what? Babies in fall. So if you have a baby in fall time, what do you want to do with it? You want to just keep it and keep it warm all winter and keep it in your house? No.
I think you're saying that
You
also.
gotta take it to the. It's so cold that it would be ice cubes on the water. You gotta put it back.
Alright, to wrap up any other conversations?
Don't get it. Yeah, let it blow the
Alright.
We're gonna rotate that towards the back. So you guys gonna go that way towards it. Counterclockwise to the left. So you gotta go to this one. You can anyone who talk the large bird, you can go to the back. You guys are gonna talk about the large bird. And then you guys get to know learn about baby turtles. Did you get one of those, the business cards? Thank you so much for coming, I appreciate it.
It says make it, then you're supposed to on the ground, like you're supposed to do something about it, you're supposed to pump it. Then you pump it back into it, so put it back into the. It's the same.
That's a weighted one, it's 11 ounce.
Right, they're both the same, hold on.
They find their way in houses.
Not survive for long.
So if you found a bat outside that you thought was
Put back in
big,
the, or if it's insert.
right? Yeah, so
Some
that's.
bruises, how do I bruise that
Is it talent on the wall? Guess what?
See his eye, it looks
This is
like
like worried about the gloves.
search the nest. Search for the
You have to
nest.
be really, really
That will go
careful
straight through the
because it
glove.
might have a little.
Okay.
Found the nest. Safely reach it, but safe
You
back
want
in
to
the
make sure
Keep it
you
much smaller.
avoid
Something
touching as much the eagle has.
Lay eggs in other birds'
Oh,
nests.
yeah.
Yeah.
Kick them out.
They don't wanna,
They're lazy.
The other egg.
Oh, they're lazy.
because they don't wanna raise them.
That's so messed up.
Oh, they don't want to raise them, they just put them in there?
Yeah, so
Oh, I thought
they
they
lay
were
in the
too.
nest. And then
I thought they were
start
too
the other
lazy so that they.
Yeah, then they
I
set
thought they were
them
too
up.
lazy to make their own nest, but they're too lazy to.
Or too lazy to raise
Do
them.
all
Yeah.
all.
So you have to check your nest. So we had like a nest last year, and my dad had to do it like throw it out. Because they were just never carrying the
Should have washed that back.
The back?
I'm tired of it falling. Please, the first thing was possibly really.
Yes, that's, yes.
That's like
Like, what you already called them?
but they say have these little mites, nest mites.
Oh, gosh. Oh.
They can't survive at least too long, but they might
Because once like birds are just like.
a little watch a little bit for
What? We have to, yes.
Oh.
And it's me.
We just said birds are.
Oh, it's also my principal also watching.
No offense.
So what do you guys talk about here?
We talked about the fact because it was a naked word on the ground, just try to help us.
Did it agree with that?
Yeah, and try to put it back in the nest first. If it doesn't look like this,
We got a small group.
injured, then you probably hard.
Get the bird in the tree that you see. Get a bird with one wing broken, fly.
For house laminator? Oh, yeah. I had to redo them. Okay. Here's our rotate.
I had a rescue situation where he ran one out. Both of the wings are like this. He's about 30 feet off the ground and his wings are like they come crawling in the tree. And so the bird went back like flapping and it was like caught in the tree. So now I was talking to the owner at a cherry picking machine. And he got way up there, but he's been doing this like he's like this and he's gonna help around with the time.
You can rotate to the next one. Alright. Let's go through this one. Oh, we're gonna leave the camera alone. That's how I can look back at it and see if I did a good job teaching you guys. So, nesting birds. If you found a naked or nestling baby bird on the ground, what would you do? Well, put it back in the nest. The back of the nest? Okay. Thoughts?
When you're putting it back in the nest, it's real easy for the others to block. When you're trying to put that one back to make sure the others don't fly out.
Alright. Yes, we can. Do our little thing here. Okay. So, since a nestling bird has youngest ones who don't have like the feathers on them, they won't survive long for out of its nest. Nestlings are highly dependent on their parents for warmth, food, and protection from the elements and predators. So, fallen nestling should ideally be put back into its nest. The expectation is just. The exception is just birds easier. You see cuts or signs of blood from the bird is more likely to survive unless the body is rehabilitated. So search for the bird's nest. Some species nest in trees or shrubs. Others nest on ledges or on buildings. If you found a nest on a ledge or branch and you can safely reach it, you should place the baby bird back in the nest and make it warm. Most birds have little or no sense of smell, so the parents will not detect the baby bird is touched.
Turtle?
Important to wear gloves as well.
Okay, I was going to volunteer that there is a rumor that you can touch the baby.
That's a rumor. So you can touch a baby bird. You might have to.
That doesn't affect it. You can.
Correct. Mother will still take back. So it's important like use gloves and gloves to get this process. That way you don't need to reach for it. Bugs out don't get you. But yes, the mother will take back the bird still. So I'm sure very good things. And keep a watch from a distance. If you just don't see the parents come back, then you can try and recover.
Brenna, you good to rotate?
Yep.
Okay, we can rotate again if we like.
So last one.
Because if it's cold outside, like right now the bats are coming out. I have people talking about the bats are coming out of the house and they're finding out. Well, he's kind of like, so when he gets cold, it's he does. Yeah, he can actually literally feel his body completely. Yeah. I mean, the blood is moving, things like that. So they're like leaves in the woods.
That's always right. Are you actually are you like telling me?
Would you go look for a big worm to see about? No. Because you don't know. He might not eat worms. Maybe he's the seed eater.
It will not survive for long. Dependent on this nest. So a fallen nestling should ideally be put back into its nest. The exception to this is if the bird is injured. If he cuts, bruises, abrasions, or blood, it is unlikely to survive unless it is brought to a licensed live. Search for bird nests. Some nest in trees or shrubs, or birds on ledges, or buildings, or other uses nest on the ground.
So if I can't get you, what do you think? It might not survive. Because cats sometimes have different types of bacteria on their teeth. And the second thing is, in the body of the bird, the reason why a bird is buoyant, when they flap, they're literally, it's like an accordion. And there's air sacs all over their body. A cat can go through and puncture those air sacs. And then what happens is the blood will fill up really fast in those air sacs and cause a clot. The clot forms and then kills the bird. And happens really fast. That's why birds don't usually live fast. And if it's a cat attack, it's usually done.
Yeah, make sure you wear gloves. Use some plastic knives and
and see, remember, if the eyes are open on the baby, then you have to be careful when you're handling them. That's why we put them in a box away from women. We don't talk to them. Because if a baby can see you, they can imprint on you. It's like it's like if I was a big ape and I'm like, ooh, 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 and you looked at me like, oh, that's my dad. And like, and then you thought you were a monkey the rest of your life. It never happens. It could happen. It happens with animals.
You guys are feeling content with your answers and questions. Thank you so much for walking around doing that activity.
It's like, yes, you have to
So, I hope you all had fun. Was there anything that surprised you or maybe shocked you or something, once you talked about what you would do, did it differ from what you were actually supposed to do? Does anybody want to share? It's okay if you don't. Totally okay.
We talked about we didn't feel comfortable like touching the hawk.
Yeah. Right.
And it said that you could like, throw a blanket on it or do something unless they tell you to, but we didn't feel too comfortable.
And that's totally fine. Like a lot of these animals, I would not feel comfortable, and I think that's kind of natural for like humans to feel that like compassion for wildlife, but it's also completely understandable. It's like, well, I'm also concerned about myself. How do I actually take this animal, get it into a cardboard box, and bring it somewhere safely? So that's why we always like stress that, and that's why we provided y'all with these cards. If you're ever in a situation where you find injured wildlife, it's always better to call like the experts and get advice before you do anything. That would be my advice, because not only do you want to protect the animal, but I guess most importantly, you want to protect yourself. So definitely large birds. I don't know how I would feel handling a giant hawk, but people do, and we need people to do that.
Also, if you, like, maybe your neighbor, maybe they are more comfortable with that kind of stuff, you can call on the people around you. If it's unable for someone to come out and help you guys, then you can call on people in your community to help you out if that's like a resource you have. Yeah.
So all in all, while proper wildlife rehabilitation can help injured wildlife and serve as a beacon of hope, it's also important to know when to let nature take its course, or when nature knows best, and when you should step in and interfere, or when you should let it be. So I hope you all enjoyed our program today. And real quick, today we were talking about wild animals all day and native animals, but there is another part of wildlife rehabilitation where domesticated animals are brought in, specifically sometimes a lot of exotic pets and animals. Once people are unable to care for these animals, they'll just release them into a forest or into a waterway or so on and so forth. And today we have someone back here, Dino, who actually brought in an animal, a wildlife ambassador, like we were talking about earlier. It's a tortoise, and he knows more of the story than me. I know it swallowed a kite ribbon, right? Someone found it wandering. He had a kite ribbon in him. They had to do surgery. They were able to remove it, and he or she.
It's so. That's a good question. We'll have to.
Yeah. Or she survived. They survived.
They're fine.
Yeah, they survived, and now they're doing good. They're a wildlife ambassador. So Dino was kind enough. He's actually one of the resources on these cards, and he's actually the first resource, because that's who Schmeekley had listed, and he brought the tortoise in today for you all to look at. So it's an actual wildlife ambassador here with us. So
Okay, so I'm going to need help moving the pens.
Before we release real quick, again, as
we're going to
Eric
bring
said,
him in here.
yeah, okay, yeah, go ahead. You're good. I'll just keep talking. As Eric said, thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate it so much. Please look on the fancy sheets of paper that you have in front of you to see if there's any other programs that you would like to come out to in the future. We also have a gift shop in there that is really fun and has a lot of good stuff. But overall, if you could just take those business cards that I handed out and keep these things in mind if you encounter a wild animal, that would be fabulous. So thank you guys so much. Thank
So just a little background about what it is I do and where we are from. We are local, and we're not that far from here. We're only just about a mile and a half down the road. Most people don't even realize we exist, and that's exactly what we want. And the reason for that is because I have a background as a game warden, and biology, I have 4 degrees actually from university, resource management, environmental education, and of course, environmental law enforcement as a game warden. Okay, I need you to guy in front. Okay, so we not only work with native animals, but we also work with non-native species, because a lot of the animals that are coming in because of the fact that you have college students that want to make things pets, okay? And mommy and daddy are not going to want your pets when you go home after graduation. And some of those animals don't make the best of pets. You also have to consider the lifespan of an animal. A lot of people want to have animals, and they don't really consider, one, the lifespan, the expense, and the cost involved in a lot of animals. In our rescue, we have about 150 animals in the rescue, of all different varieties, all different sizes, all different species. When it comes to native animals, I am actually half indigenous or Native American. And one of the most important things for us is to leave the animals in nature. And a lot of people say, well, you know, I know it's about reverence for the animals. And for us, and for me, it's always been about reverence for the animals. They're saying, well, why don't you get your permit to have a hawk? First of all, I don't want to have a hawk. I know Rex Runke. Rex Runke and I are good friends, and Rex Runke has all these different birds that he likes to educate with, which is great. Unfortunately, that means that you have to take that animal out of circulation. The same thing goes with a lot of different species. People want to, take them out, they see a baby turtle in fall time, want to make it a pet. You've taken it out of circulation. And now you have it sitting in a house with 7-degree temperature, which it's not used to. And after a while, then we get these calls from people that say, we want to give up this animal. And unfortunately, a lot of them are native species. If I know the exact location for that native species, I will take that native species back, okay? And that's not unheard of. However, there is something that's kind of spiritual for some people to release turtles. And actually in the Wisconsin River, we get calls every once in a while of non-native species of turtles being dumped in the Wisconsin River or in Schmeekley or wherever else. It's a spiritual thing for people to release an animal. And it is spiritual. Marge Gibson invites everybody to come and watch her as she releases an eagle. And that allows you to release that eagle. And that's really cool. Unfortunately, there are a lot of species that can never be released. If we do not know the exact location, we cannot take them back. Many animals have a genetic code. You each have a genetic code, okay? And your genetic code is very specific to your family, very specific to your area. If the genetic code doesn't fit, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and I just decide, I'm going to take these turtles and just go release them out in the woods, or painted turtles, but if those painted turtles came from Florida, if you're going on a spring break trip and you bring them back, their genetic code will not match the genetic code of the animals here. And therefore, we have a problem. You're causing trouble for the local population of animals. Okay, so that's something that we have to really be concerned. we've messed it up. And so the fifth rule that I always say of ecology is one that they don't talk about. And the fifth rule is we've messed it up. Now we've got to fix it. Okay? So there's some cases that we are able to actually fix the situation, put the animal back out, get it back into its natural environment if we know exactly where the animal came from. And again, we hold permits from the DNR for threatened and endangered species. Again, only specific people can come to my house and check my animals out. I do not open to the public. We don't allow that. We're not a zoo. We're not a breeding facility. That's not what we're there for. We're a forever rescue. So there's a difference between a forever rescue and a rescue who says, sure, I'll take your snake off your hands. And what do? They take that snake and sell it to make money for themselves. We don't sell animals. If it's an education facility like a zoo or say a university or whatever, and they say, we would like to get one for a collection, no cost. We've got one. We need a home for it. Here you go. So yeah, we hold animals kind of like repository animals. And some animals we have held for quite some time until they have a home that's ready to go for them, and then we'll send them on to a zoo or facility. Okay. My biggest animal, well, my biggest one, this is not big, now by far. If you know the natural history of this animal is an animal that governs time. Okay, and I'd like to teach the kids a lot about the traditional histories of Native Americans and other cultures around the world. A lot of times we use Judeo-Christian teaching a lot of times about different things, but I like to teach about some of the indigenous people. I gotta make sure I get the right one here, don't promise. All right, so for this one we need 4 brave souls to help me. This animal has a beak. This animal could bite you, but it would not be interested in you because you're not its favorite food. Its favorite food are grass and plants. Okay, got it? I need 4 people. Yeah, you can wear your gloves if you want, but I don't think so. Yeah, come on up. I need one more person. One more. I got 3 of you too. Come on, that's 3 of you. I need a 4th person. Are you going to help? Okay, good. All right. Now, this is not the biggest animal we have like this. Our biggest one was almost 200 pounds. She was owned by an elderly woman in Amherst, and she actually gave it up a couple years ago. She also gave us another one, a different species of this creature. Unfortunately, it was illegal for her to have this other species because it was a native Wisconsin endangered species. And she had an ornate box turtle, okay? She had no permits for it. So, we got told both of the turtles. The woman, unfortunately, this is what happens with a lot of pet owners, is that they actually, the animal's going to outlive the people, okay? She had lung cancer. She couldn't lift the animal. It takes a forklift to lift the animal because it was over 200 pounds. We had to have 4 big, brave people in the audience to help us do this. So you guys would be able to help me out because this animal's a little smaller. But this is an animal that was found up in Wausau a couple years ago because we work really closely with humane societies. We have 13 humane societies in the state that we work with. We work with 4 wildlife rescues, including Reggie, Northwoods Wildlife, Bay Beach Wildlife, and of course there was one south here. Now the thing is, you got to keep in mind, each wildlife rescue does different kind of work. Reggie does birds, okay? But there's a point when there's too many birds in the rescue, they have to say, no, we can't take the animals in. So a lot of times if I get a call, I have to call around. It's like, you know, who's on the hotline? You're calling all these different people throughout. There's this network of rehabbers throughout, okay? There's a lot of people here locally who do specific animals, squirrels, rabbits, and that's it. But then I have to go and find somebody else who can do these other jobs. Because some people don't even want to do squirrels or rabbits, they don't want to mess with them, okay? So, because it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of money out of your pocket, too. Keep that in mind. So you're going to have a good bankroll going on at the same time. I was lucky because I had Nature Treks. Nature Treks was my company that got people into nature, to see nature, and to leave it alone. And that was the most important thing. The biggest education we wanted was look at the environment, see the animals in nature. There's wood turtles on this section. There's soft-shelled turtles on this section. There's this, that, and the other thing. You know, come out, take a look at it. See it in a canoe, see it, and then leave it alone. Okay? So this one we can't take back because we don't know exactly where it came from. So you guys are going to have to take them out. So go for it.
Go for it. Look at that. Look at that just going for it.
Not super heavy, but you need to grab a corner to lift it. Yeah, grab a corner. My biggest turtle was as big as this box, and she just passed away this last year. But again, the veterinarian bill was $2,000.
I was like, you do.
And unfortunately, the animal did pass away. Did you have? Oh.
I was like, I have other gloves.
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
This is tiny. This is little. Okay, now move them out to the grass. Or, yeah, we gotta be careful. Another thing too, when you're working with live animals, as remember, they will poo and leave things behind. So,
And we need to clean it up.
and you get to clean it up. Okay, that's why we
It's
try
our
to avoid.
program. So,
Now, this animal actually is from Africa. This is called the sulcata tortoise, and this is a young sulcata. It was found in up in Wausau, and they had found that it had swallowed. They love bright things. Turtles are very good. They can see colors really well, and they saw this beautiful kite string. And they had to go in to the animal with a saw, cut the belly wide open, break the bone. And if you know anything about turtles, turtles are actually really easy to repair. So they actually had to break the bones. They sealed it back, basically. The shell is alive. Everything about this animal is alive. Their shell is literally alive. So when you tap on it, and this animal likes to fly. I always love it because when we go someplace, she always fly. So it is a girl. Okay, how do we know it's a girl? The bottom is flat. The male's bottom is not flat, okay, especially in land tortoises. Why? Maybe you don't want to tell you.
Yeah, skip that one.
Okay, this is a beef rating show. Okay, so basically, that's just, you know, you can let your mind wander on that one. Okay. A lot of college students are going on trips, they see something on the side of the road, they bring it back. We've had a couple of things that have come back over the years, and we actually have a lot of like box turtles, you know, male and female, sitting on the side of the road. Our problem is habitat loss. Habitat loss is the #1 reason for animals disappearing. And what we do is we create false habitat along the highways. The animals come along the highway because it's hot, it's nice, it's suntanny, and they go and they lay eggs everywhere, okay? She's a plant eater, so she's not going to hurt you. But she's called the sulcata tortoise because they have, or spur-thighed tortoise, because on her face in Africa, she has to protect herself from big cats. And one of the things she does is she boxes. And she's going to go like this if you get too close. And so she's a boxer. And that's why these big spikes are in. They're great digging tools. So they're great diggers, kind of like our box turtles here in Wisconsin. Okay. No, I apologize. I normally bring like about 30 different animals to work. I would bring 3. You know? I was under rules. There are rules. There are rules. University rules are very different. They're under the IACUC rules. There are certain things that we cannot have in parks. So, for example, a non-native species, I can't do programs in parks. I can do programs at campgrounds. I can do programs at schools and other things, but I cannot do programs in parks. Even though I worked for the county parks for years and years and years. But now Rex, he could bring a hawk or an owl, an eagle out in the park and do a program. That's not a problem. So there's different rules. If you're dealing with birds, you have to have specific permits for predatory birds. You have to have specific permits for songbirds. You have to have specific permits for mammals. You have to have specific permits for reptiles. Every one of these animal rescues have to have specific permits. Our permits are different. Because I'm Native American, I get to skip around a few permits. And because of the fact of the spirituality of it. Okay, so I guess that's part of it. But I'm also a game warden too. That's what I went to school for, and that's where I got my degrees in. Okay.
Also, we have hand sanitizer
Yes.
for those who want.
Every creature has salmonella. And this is not a political statement, but every time we do programs, before and after programs, we always ask people to use bacteria hand sanitizer. Okay? And the reason for that is because you all can get some kind of salmonella on you. And that's just the way it is. And then COVID broke out. The interesting thing about having animal rescues is we see those pandemics and those things first. When I worked for the wildlife hospital, one day we had raccoons. All the raccoons are ready to be released. 24 hours later, all the raccoons are lying in the pens dead. What did they get? They got a disease or a virus that could spread. So we had to be very careful. Zootrophic viruses, if I'm saying that right, can cross from one species to another. And we have to be very careful. This is why bats, believe it or not, are not a normal animal that you can rehab. Very few people are allowed to rehab any bats whatsoever. I get calls because there's local exterminators who are exterminating animals. They are not allowed to exterminate bats. You cannot exterminate a bat, okay? Because the numbers are going down, 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 down. And the biggest thing is because of bacterial and viral infections right now. Those types of infections they get, or viruses that wipe them out, could wipe out humans. And what you don't realize, and you're probably going to balk on this one, the Wizard of Oz and the flying monkeys, that's what a bat is. It's a close relative to the flying monkey. You are a relative to the flying monkey. 98% of your DNA is monkey, whether or not you want to say it is or not. Okay? And I'm on the hill a lot of times. sometimes in the wintertime, and I see all the skateboarders, the snowboarders going downhill, I can see the monkey in them, you know? All right? All right. So this little guy is little. And this one came back as just a hatchling. Now, most people that go down to Florida, college students, on spring break trip, are bringing things back. We've had 8 alligators over the years in the rescue, okay? Yes, 8 alligators over the years. Now, this is our last one, okay? Because what we do is we hold them until they're big enough to go on to another facility, or unfortunately, in some cases, they do pass away. Because we just don't have the right facilities, set up for them. But it does happen. The cool thing about the alligator is this animal has been around before the dinosaurs, okay? And it's been around after. One of the unique things that they can do during cold weather, especially down in Florida, is they'll take that snout, stick it above the waterline, okay? And they can actually breathe while almost all of their body freezes solid. Turtles, like our native turtles here, will freeze solid in the mud, okay? We've done experiments when I worked for the university. We used to take snapping turtles in the middle of summertime, and we would freeze them in a block of ice. Then unfreeze them again. Unfreeze them, freeze them again. Freeze them, unfreeze them, freeze them again. Is that humane? You may say it's not humane, but that's how research is done. That's what research is done. Because you try to figure out what is unique about the animal's blood that allows them to understand how they can go to a phase where, like if you were frozen in a lake and you fell in the wintertime, if we could bring you back to life. Okay, so we're trying to figure out all this stuff. We humans, we're really dumb. We're still trying to figure out a lot of things. And we had a lot of great experiments going on. He's looking for a box to go hide in. No. All right, now, you gonna be good? Now, a lot of people say don't talk to animals. Well, because he's in a rescue situation, we have to talk to one of the smartest animals out there, alligators, because they know things. I can tell them to do specific things. I use verbal communication with them. I also use vibration commands on the large snakes and the reptiles because they know vibration commands. One pat means you're going to go out on a program. Rattling or shaking means that you're going to be fed. And they prepare themselves and get ready for that. Now, whether you believe it, there's one last thing that we use. What do you think it is? What's your sixth sense? No idea?
Same answer.
Anybody know?
Kiss him?
Kiss them? No, I think might get salmonella.
Yeah.
You may touch them. That's not a problem. The head is rubber band.
Yeah.
You can touch
Anywhere?
anywhere. In their skin are pressured plates underneath the skin. These are called, there's dome pressure receptors on the face. They look like pimples. Don't go by the head because it'll feel that, even though we have a rubber band around it. I normally never rubber band, okay, and the reason is I don't want the animal stressing out. Alligators have a unique chambered heart which allows them to stay underwater for a very long period of time, okay, and there are bony plates all over in the skin. These are called osteoderms, which are actually used as protection as well as helping them produce blood. So it heats up, and the feet are extremely soft. Notice there's only 3 real toes. They're really a close relative to a bird or a chicken. Basically a dinosaur. And this one came to us as a baby. College students brought them back, but what they did is they went out to the marsh and they saw this baby sitting out in the marsh, and he's a little tiny shaver, about 6 inches long, and he would make the baby sound. So he'd sit there and go, ew, 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 ew. And he's telling his mom, come to me, So this baby was afraid because mama usually holds on to her baby for 3 years. They ride on her back, okay? And she just basically is like the school bus. She goes out to an area, she parks the school bus, kids go hunting, and then she calls them back. And then everybody comes back and they sit on her back and she calls them off for 3 years. So there's a unique life cycle that you have to know. We can't just take an alligator, run it back down to Florida, and throw it in the alligator pond, okay, or the marsh. Because we need to know the exact location. We need to know the genetic code of this animal. Turtles have a unique, specific genetic code. And we know that this kind of a conservation program failed, especially with the ornate box turtles in Wisconsin, because you say, oh, we got all these ornate box turtles, we should be able to breed all these ornate box turtles and have a whole new population. But the jigsaw puzzle doesn't fit for certain species. The genetic code's wrong. And so what was happening is, in the DNR, when I worked there, we were getting a lot of ornate box turtles. Some of the babies were born without feet. Or a really bad shell, okay? So now we know that specific animals have genetic codes specific to their location. Unlike you humans, you can fly all over the world and spread your genes everywhere. Okay. So that's the end of my, I want to thank you guys for allowing me to do this.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate it.
There's a lot to think about when you're doing wildlife rehabilitation, or even just the fact that if you want to help something out. These guys can never go back to their original homeland, okay? Because we just don't know. So the only thing we can do is find a zoo that's willing to take them in for education purposes. And the native ones, our ultimate goal with native animals is to get them back out. But if you are going to hold those animals that are native, you need to have the proper permits. And some of them you'd be surprised are very easy to have. If you just have a painted turtle or a snapping turtle, that's common. You just need a fishing license to have it. That's it. Oh. But who wants a snapping turtle in their basement? See, now I could have brought you my alligator snapper today, along with my common snapper. My common snapper somebody bought, because again, college students are funny this way, they buy things online. Be careful what you're getting online, because somebody said, I bought this alligator snapper from Florida, and when they got it, I'm like, no, it's a common snapper. You paid $100 for a common snapper, you know? It's just like, so again, college students, you know, keep in mind, they hate you.
Well, we're in the CNR, so luckily I don't think we'll have that.
Yeah, I know, but there's a lot of there's a lot of reptile people, I tell you, that sometimes don't know their animals.
So thank you, Dino, for coming.
Thank you, everyone else.
Well, I'll leave you just if you want to look at the animals closer, and that's it. And then we'll load them up and take them out.
And
because he makes it feel like he's at home. Well, that's a good question. Because he'd be eating them all the time. I'd have to be replacing the fake leaves. We're trying to fool him, is what we're doing. We create a for artificial habitats, we fool them. That's how, I mean, you go to a fish store and you see all the fake tank displays. Yeah, you fool them to make them feel comfortable.
the hand sanitizer is up here. Again, if you guys,